exciting times. I've been invited to my friend's Indian wedding and she has allowed me to make my own lehenga. And this middle one is the inspiration of the dress that I want to make, or lehenga that I want to make, except in a pink colorway. I've got a beautiful fabric that my mum got from Indonesia, which I checked with my friend if it was okay to wear to her wedding, and she said yes. So I will show you the fabrics now. So here is the beautiful pink dusty rose sort of fabric. The color isn't showing up very well right now because it's artificial lighting at nighttime, but it really is a beautiful fabric in person. And for the lining, I am going to be using this satin pink fabric. It's got no stretch to it. I think it's a crepe back satin. And honestly, I have no idea how many meters of these I've got, but I am hoping it will all work out. For measurements, my waist is 28 inches. I divided my waist by 2 because I wanted each panel to have a width of 2 inches at the top. So that gave me a measurement of 14, just so that's the 14 panels, that's where that comes through. And then I measured the whole length of the fabric, and that's 156 inches. So then I divided that number by 14 to give me what the maximum allowance I can have for the bottom width of each skirt panel. And as for the length, I just measured from my waist down to the ground. That's going to be 45 inches. So those are the measurements, and I'm going to just start cutting it out of my lining fabric. So I've done the first cut of the first panel. The fabric is on the fold twice, so that's the selvage edge on the fold. Sorry, not the selvage edge, but that's the grain along the fold, and I have cut half of 2 plus a little bit of seam allowance, gone all the way down 46 inches, and I've cut 5.5 inches across, so that's totaling up to 11 inches at the bottom when I unfold it. So if I unfold this out now, you can see my skirt panel piece, which I'm going to use as a pattern for all the other skirt panel pieces. So now I'm just going to flip this so that the bottom edge is along here and cut out the same pattern, so on and so forth, along all of my fabric for the lining. So I think that will be 14 skirt pieces in total for the lining, and then another 14 for the outer skirt. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of that, cut out that same panel piece 14 times. You can barely see it, but all 14 panels from the lining fabric have been cut out. So I'm going to use the exact same pattern piece and cut out my lace fabric now. Alright, so I've laid my lace fabric on the fold is over there, and I've tried my best to line up each of the scalloped edges as much as I can, but it's quite difficult. So I've lined up this one, I think, a little bit better than the other edge, so I'm going to be using this scalloped edge as the hem of the skirt. I've got my panel piece from the lining cut from previously, and I'm using that fold marking to line up with the fold of the lace, and I've matched up the bottom edge with the scallop, and I'm going to cut that out, and then I'm going to continuously cut all along until I've got all 14 panels. I finally finished cutting out all of my panel pieces. I ended up doing the alternating thing where it's like the bottom and then reverse it, so the bottom is over that side, and then like so on and so forth. So similar to how I did it for the lining fabric, I ended up doing it this way because I figured if I was just doing the hem along this bottom edge, then I would actually run out of fabric and not have enough to make the top as well. So I'm doing it this way. I'm hoping it all lines up nicely. I think when I sew the lace, I'm going to sew it from bottom to top rather than top to bottom. So I'll do the lining top to bottom to make sure that it fits nice around the waist. And then for the lace, because I want this scalloped edge to be cohesive all along the hem, I'll have to do it from the bottom up. I've sewn together all 14 panels, and this is the skirt. I zigzag stitched the top edge so it would stop fraying, and I've got just a little slit so it can fit over my hips. And as for all of the lace pieces, I've cut them all out and I've matched up each of the scalloped hem edges, so the bottom edges of the skirt, and I'm going to sew all of these 14 panels together. So this is what the skirt looks like, just the underskirt, and I've got my petticoat underneath, and I've just tucked in the raw edges into the waistband of the petticoat just to get a look and feel of how it is. And I've sewn together all of the lace panel pieces, so I'm going to now put this over the top. So here is what it looks like. Again, I've just tucked it into the waistband of the petticoat, and I definitely think it needs netting can underneath to help keep its shape because it looks very flat at the moment. It's very heavy, but it is so beautiful. I'm very pleased with how that is looking, and gosh, I feel like even though it's a lot of work to sew up all of these seams, the effect is beautiful, like with such a wide like skirt at the bottom and then it's like tapered towards the top. I'm used to just like doing maybe 4 or so panels rather than like 14, but the effect really is lovely. So I've attached the 2 layers together just along the top waistline, and I sewed this far down from the top because otherwise the skirt's going to be too long. So I've just stitched all the way around the top waistline to attach the 2 layers together, and the bottom hem should all be even. I've also hemmed the bottom with a simple rolled hem along the lining layer, and then on the top the scalloped edge is already nicely finished. So now what I'm going to do with the waistband is I'm going to cut off all of this excess fabric above this stitch line, and then I am going to insert a casing or facing with this cotton tape, and that's going to be what the drawstring will feed into and also bind off this raw edge. And here's the casing and facing all finished. So from the outside you can just see a very small part of that cotton tape, but on the inside that will be what's against the skin, and I'm hoping that when I put the drawstring in it will gather this fabric somewhat nicely because it is quite bulky at the moment, but I will see how that goes. The opening is down here, so that's where the drawstring will feed through, and then it will just tie closed at the side like that, and then all the way around it will gather up as the drawstring is pulled tight. So this is how it looks with the top and the departer. The top is just hook and eye closed in the back, and I might also safety pin it because it keeps not popping out, but it just, there's like a little flap that doesn't really stay closed. And the skirt is looking really pretty. There is 2 petticoats underneath this. The white one is the first one, and then there's the like ruffled petticoat on top of that, and that helps with the shape of the skirt. The drawstring, just I've tucked it in underneath here because I didn't want the ribbon to be sticking out, and then I have draped the departer following a YouTube tutorial in a style that I really liked. This is just a departer that I'm borrowing from my friend to test how it looks with this dress, but I have ordered a new one online which is pink, and I will be like adding pink lace to the outer trimming edges of the dupatta so it matches this lehenga some more. And yeah, I'm very happy with how that looks. Trying to see if I can get the full thing in the picture. But yeah, I've just bobby pinned this at the moment, and I would need to pin that as well if I was wearing it for real, but this is the effect and I am loving it. So here's a little close-up of the bodice. It was very difficult to make. I ran into a lot of issues when making it, so I didn't even bother filming it, but I will just show you the final product and try and explain what I did. So essentially there is a satin base layer, the lace overlay, and it's also lined with the same satin fabric. I used a basic bodice pattern with the princess seams, put that all together, and I also used interfacing as well, just lightweight iron-on interfacing, so there is no boning or anything. The interfacing is what helps keep its shape. I've also put in bust cups that are sewn in there. As you can see, I top stitched all the way around the top to keep those layers nice and flat, and it's finished at the bottom with that same satin fabric, which is then hand sewn along the inside edge, so there's no stitching visible from the outside on the lace. For the closure, I've used a hook and eye bra closure thing, and that way it's adjustable. I do still need to add some hooks and eyes along here for when I wear it. I wear it on the tightest setting, so along here needs to be secure as well. As for the straps, it is the same satin fabric, and then through the back portion I've put elastic. That way I can move my arms up and down without any restriction of my movement. So that's essentially the bodice, and I wish I was able to give more of an explanation, but I hope that helps anyone who is wanting to make something similar. So here's a bit of a close-up of the skirt waistband. It's got the cotton tape along the inside, and that forms the casing which the ribbon goes through, and then when the ribbon is tied around the waist, the waistband gathers it on itself like this, and that is how the skirt secures to, well, that's how the skirt secures on the body.